be on watching the same parts you are. Okay.
Oh, that's my camera. I clicked the wrong one. Oh no. I've been out of the game for too long, chat.
Embarrassing.
That was funny. I literally was hovering over like, this is the right one for sure. Clicked the wrong thing. Hello, chat room.
What's up, chat? How we doing? It's we're gonna be watching the Dorktown Supercut of the history of the Seattle Mariners, which is gonna be a first time for Joe. I watched this I think when it first came out, really early on.
Yeah.
So it's been a little while since I've watched it, but yeah, I'm super excited to get Joe's thoughts on it. Army men, I sent out your package this morning, by the way, so I finally got it sent out. So just be on the lookout for that. But yeah, Joe's first time watching it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be exciting. See what all we can get for the Mariners. And, I feel like it's a good time to watch it since Rick Riz just announced his retirement. There's probably going to be a lot of Rick Riz in here.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be fun. Just kind of look back. We're basically going to watch the history of Rick Riz unfold with the Mariners during this documentary, which is going to be really cool. So
I'm looking forward to, I think, just understanding as much of the Mariners as I possibly can through this video. I mean, it's more of it's a documentary essentially, right? The extent of what is presented has been long documented as nothing short of a world-class kind of documentary. Geez, wait. What's the word? Document? Is that the right documentary? I don't know why I want to say documentary. Listen, man. Listen. I'm struggling over here.
I can see that.
I'm going to get some water really quick.
When we start this, I'm going to need you to tell me when you're starting it.
Do you want me to just share my screen to you?
No, because I don't want to mess up the stream. So as long as you tell me when you're starting it,
okay,
and I can start it at the same time,
sure,
then we should be all right.
Documentary, yeah, dude. I don't know what's going on, Jay. I don't know what's going on.
Joe's having a strong.
Yeah, a little tough there. We're just gonna let people kind of fill in for a moment, just as we're getting set up here. I know, Mike was. I mean, he asked about when we were planning on doing it after we said during one of the streams during the postseason about I would be willing to sit down and watch it. And we're just going to do part 1, part 2 essentially. So we'll stop it. I think around the double is.
Yeah. It's right after 95, I believe.
Yeah. So we'll stop there, watch probably a little bit over half of it today and then half of it tomorrow. Same time, 6 o'clock essentially. What are you doing?
I'm opening my windows. It's hot as hell in here.
Okay. What I was trying to say when I couldn't remember how to pronounce documentary was how many people have said that they weren't really Mariners fans, but they watched this and then they became fans via this video. Essentially, is it's sparked their fandom, whether or not it's their first team or they grew to appreciate it as their second team, whatever. The amount of people that care about this franchise because of this video, I think is pretty fun. It's something that I don't think I don't often think about where fandoms kind of come from, but the fact that this video could have spawned, hundreds, maybe thousands of new fans is interesting. So the vid they're watching may be my fave YouTube video of all time. And see, that's like, and the fact that I haven't watched it is kind of appalling from my point of view, trying to call myself a Mariners fan. You know what I mean? Like, am I a Mariners fan if I haven't watched this video?
It's a tough look.
Yeah.
But you're going to fix that today.
Yeah.
Which is going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
You'll finally fix it. Little shameless plug here. We created a Win It for Rick t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So for Rick Riz, win the whole World Series this year, because, you know, Rick is retiring. So if you guys do want to get that, 50% of the proceeds are going to be going to the Rick Riz Toys for Kids Foundation. So pretty cool design. But yeah, if you guys want to grab it, that's where it's going to be.
That's insane. I'm sorry. Okay. Listen, I'm exposing myself live in order to ask for forgiveness. Okay. That's what I don't have to make that face. Yeah, maybe a poor choice of words on my part. Maybe a poor choice of words.
You're doing what live?
They're doing what live? Got to end the stream.
Goodness.
We got to restart.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I guess without further ado, it's almost time. We'll wait till 6. We got 2 minutes. We'll wait till 6. Oh my goodness, is that the Ty Dane Gonzalez?
Hit us with an Ayo.
Really glad he was in here for that part. You know, to hear you say that you're exposing yourself live.
It's gonna get clipped, and then so we'll clip that, and then anytime the Mariners do something good as a form of an excited reaction, we'll post that online saying I'm gonna expose myself live, and then. And then that can be a meme for the 2026 season. We had Lyle, you know, eating up his lemon pepper wets for 2025.
That's
we had Jake posting can we score some effing runs from our opening day vlog? So let's get, and then obviously Ty with the Randy pose.
Right. Yeah. The Mariners content creator lore goes crazy.
What's up, Lucario? 33 months, dog. That's crazy.
Yeah, 33 months is a long time. What's up, dude?
WBC predictions. There will not be a new winner of the WBC. It will be one of USA, Japan, or Dominican Republic. I think we are going to continue the trend of them being the 3 powerhouses of the baseball world. So
I would agree with that. Special K becoming a member of the Mojovians as well. Love to see it. Shout out Special K.
Huge. Absolutely massive. Okay, Dorian. You streamed the other day for the top 50, and I still need to react to the chat's top 50 and make my own. So I will do that at some point. Did you gift all 10 for January?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know. Did I? Let's find out.
Mexico has this. They have Rowdy.
I did gift them all. This is so sad.
I thought I saw 2 Mariner Mojo things in the the Streamlabs log. So yeah. Well,
let's get into it. You ordered a shirt. Let's go, Mike. I think you might be the first one to order a shirt, Mike. Shout out to Mike.
Mike Ha7. That's the guy right there. That's the freaking guy.
What a freaking legend. Next episode, Mike, is going to be your episode.
Yes, sir. Well,
all right.
Next, because we recorded the next episode
that's
already.
True. That's true. Not tomorrow's episode.
Not tomorrow's episode.
I guess Monday's episode.
Sunday's recording.
Yeah. That's right. Anyway, let's get into it, huh?
Yeah. Okay, so.
Count me down.
Oh, Lord. I hit full screen and then it just started playing. We're fine though. You guys will have to tell me how the audio is. If it's too loud, if it's not loud enough, you'll just have to communicate that to me. Fan tracks? No thanks, Dorian.
You're scaring him, Dorian.
Yeah, you can't say fan tracks like that. It's scaring me. Okay. Got copyright nuked? What do you mean? I'm literally we're gonna get copyright nuked on this anyways. We're just watching the video. I'm gonna listen. We're all hearing the audio. If it gets flagged, I didn't monetize the live stream. We're just here. We're just here we're react contenting. All right. Locked On didn't strike us down the times we've reacted to their offseason plans. So, okay,
that's true.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Count me down.
2, 1. If it's too loud, let me know. If it's too quiet, let me know. It's pretty loud in my ears, but I'll just leave it like that.
The story of the Seattle Mariners is extraordinarily weird, and it takes a very long time to tell, so let's not waste any time. This story begins the only way it ever could have begun, with 140 acts of arson. Robert Bruce Driscoll, seen here in handcuffs after he was finally caught in 1935, was a transient who had struggled to find work in the wake of the Great Depression. This era engendered hatred of the rich and capitalism in general in many people, including Driscoll. In the New Deal 1930s, while those in power were busy trying to cobble together a kinder, gentler type of capitalism, Driscoll took a more direct approach, setting stuff on fire. One official described him as, quote, the most dangerous pyromaniac ever known on the Pacific Coast. Over the course of several years, he destroyed at least $18 million worth of property in today's money, indiscriminately setting fire to factories, lumber mills, churches, and a baseball stadium. Dugdale Field was a small but adequate ballpark that served as home to the minor league Seattle Indians. Late at night, on July 4th, 1932, Driscoll gathered some game programs that were lying around, used them to set the grandstands on fire, retreated to a nearby hill, and watched the whole thing burn down. When it did, the team was forced to relocate to Civic Stadium. The thing to know about Civic Stadium is that it couldn't really be called a field because the term field implies grass, which Civic Stadium didn't quite have. The playing area was almost entirely dirt. It was described as a mud hole. Everyone hated it. Attendance cratered.
Yeah,
I'm pausing for a second. You got ads?
I got ads.
That's tough.
I'm just gonna watch. I'll just watch the stream, so I'll be a little behind.
I can just try and I can just share my screen.
I mean, go ahead if you want to. I just am worried that it will
hold on,
blow up your stream.
Oh, we'll be fine. 1 second, chat. Colton got an ad.
Yeah, not all of us use ad block. Right?
Listen, I only I don't always use it. You don't gotta out me like that, dog.
well, that's the only reason you wouldn't have gotten an ad.
That's correct. All right. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, buddy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
We donate all this money and you can't afford YouTube Premium. Listen, chat. All right, if you guys donate $1,000, I'll shave my head
right now.
If you donate $2,500, I'll get a Mariners tattoo. Listen, if you donate $250, I'll give away an Edgar Martinez autograph card, Terrace Club tickets. We'll figure it out. Send me your money now.
See, look, no, Felipe's got it. He's got it unlocked there. I have YouTube Premium.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Also, Dorian, we both have Elgato capture cards. We just don't like.
I just don't know where mine is.
I know where mine is. I just don't like to use it because it's a pain in the butt, and that would also require my. It doesn't matter. Okay, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. All right.
You love your baseball cards from Mariner Mojo. You haven't gotten them yet, Army Men.
But he loves them already, so
it's fair. Just so we're clear, Army Men. The older box, it's an old box, so the plastic is like tearing. All right, just so you're aware.
There was no tampering involved.
There was no tampering. Capture card wouldn't help with that, Dorian. Why are you here? Shut up. Dorian, how old? It was like 90s.
Dorian, I'm gonna fight you. I thought was it 94?
Something like that. It was either 92 or 94.
All right, I'm gonna start it up again.
The Indians were in serious financial trouble. The person who kept the team in Seattle was Emil Sick, a local beer magnate who bought the team in 1937 and renamed it the Seattle Rainiers. Among the promises he delivered on was the construction of a brand new ballpark, built right on top of the burned-down Dugdale Field. It was described as one of the finest on the continent. In other words, it was a Sick stadium. It was named Sick Stadium. We move forward now to the 1960s, when Major League Baseball is playing musical chairs with American cities. It's the perfect time for Seattle to try and lure a major sports team, and thanks in part to our arsonist friend, Sick Stadium is there to serve as the bait. The Cleveland Indians, Milwaukee Braves, and Kansas City Athletics all express interest, but plans to expand the ballpark to major league capacity fall through, and discussions stall out. The Kansas City A's end up moving to Oakland instead, which makes a very important person very upset. Missouri Senator Stuart Symington is furious over losing the A's and demands that the American League put a team back in KC as soon as possible. In 1960, he lost the Democratic presidential primary to JFK, and it's been alleged that Kennedy was all set to pick Symington as his running mate until Lyndon Johnson, again, allegedly, blackmailed his way into the position. Whatever the case, Symington ultimately receives a consolation prize in the founding of the Kansas City Royals after Symington threatened to pursue legislation that would jeopardize Major League Baseball's precious antitrust.
Do we need to restart since Ian just got here, or?
No,
No,
you know,
okay.
Ian, you're late, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Late. You're late.
Which essentially allowed it to operate as a monopoly. This could have cost MLB tons of money, so they caved in, and the Royals were born. Now, the Royals were scheduled to begin play in 1971. Since the American League wanted to expand in pairs, they awarded a second expansion franchise to Seattle, with the estimation that 3 years and change was enough time to renovate Sick's Stadium into a major league park. But Symington raised hell. He didn't want to wait 3 years for the Kansas City Royals. He wanted them now. Desperate to escape his wrath, AL owners met in the middle of the night and bumped up the Royals' opening day by 2 years. And the same applied for Seattle's new team. In the strangest way, it had all happened. A serial arsonist necessitated the construction of a new stadium that, decades later, served as the bargaining chip necessary for Seattle to land a Major League Baseball team. In 1969, the Seattle Pilots were born. Pilots are gone.
So, after their maiden voyage in the Pacific Northwest, the Pilots took off and headed east to Milwaukee to become the Brewers, which is completely asinine and nearly unprecedented in the 4 major American professional sports leagues. But not completely unprecedented, and in fact, ironically enough, the lone other instance of an MLB team up and leaving their original city after a single year also involved an organization known as the Milwaukee Brewers. They were MLB's worst team, struggled to draw fans, and incurred massive debt. So they were sold for 40 grand and moved to St. Louis for a while before eventually settling in as the Baltimore Orioles. Over in pro football, the Chargers spent their debut season in Los Angeles in 1960 and simply couldn't generate enough fan interest as the LA Coliseum was generally about 90% empty for their games. When San Diego swooped in and offered a temporary place to play for free, the Chargers packed their bags and headed 2 hours south to forever make moot the issue of no one in LA caring about them. Meanwhile, the Dallas Texans won a championship in just their 3rd year of existence in 1962, but hated sharing a market with the Cowboys so much that they still bailed immediately after that to Kansas City and renamed the Chiefs. The closest anyone came in the NBA was when the team now known as the Washington Wizards kicked off their first couple years in Chicago before relocating to Baltimore and adopting the Bullets moniker, while the Rockets only made it 4 years in San Diego before shoddy attendance resulted in a sale that had them Houston-bound in 1971, which, given their astronomical name, I could have called from day one. The Tri-Cities Blackhawks did move to Milwaukee after 2 years in the NBA, but they'd been around for a few years prior in a league known as the NBL. And in the NHL, after just 2 seasons, the Kansas City Scouts were hemorrhaging money, which led to their sale and move to Colorado before ultimately becoming the New Jersey Devils. So the Seattle Pilots becoming the Milwaukee Brewers joined just the Chargers and Milwaukee Brewers as truly changing markets after their initial season. They were the last ones to do it, and now more than a half century removed, it's hard to imagine they won't remain that way forever.
The reason they left really wasn't that complicated. As a minor league park, Sick's Stadium was fine. If they'd had enough time to prepare, they probably could have built it into a serviceable major league stadium. They did not have enough time, and Sick's Stadium was an absolute hellhole. Thanks to Senator Symington's impatience and a rough winter, the renovation project derailed. They'd managed to slap together some bleachers, but builders were still scrambling to put them together on opening day. Fans were lined up waiting to get in, and once they finished building a row of bleachers, they let a few more of them through. The visitors' press box had an obstructed view of left field, and whenever a ball was hit there, announcers had to turn around and watch the game through a mirror. There was nowhere for photographers to set up, so they had to take all their photos while sitting way up on the grandstand roof, which probably explains why there are so few photos of Seattle Pilots home games. But what really did them in was the plumbing, which worked pretty well when it accommodated around 10,000 people. Over the years, whenever it drew sellout crowds of around 14,000, it typically had a little trouble with overflow. But at its new 25,000 seat maximum capacity, the stadium became a biohazard. The whole place completely lost water pressure. Players had to go home or head back to their hotel rooms just to take a shower. Concessions workers couldn't wash their hands. Toilets wouldn't flush. And since the toilets wouldn't flush, they had to lug in portable toilets. The Pilots' former PR director, Bill Sears, once recalled a story. The morning after a night game, a team employee walks past some porta-johns and he hears pounding. He unlocks the door and outruns a terrified man. Stadium workers had locked the doors, not realizing he had passed out inside. He'd been trapped there all night. Six Stadium was torn down just a decade later, and the place where it once stood.
Listen, they're gonna make the Cal Raleigh honey bucket challenge where longest to stay in a honey bucket wins.
That's right.
Signed Cal Raleigh
Mr.
memorabilia.
Mr. Beast style video, just stay in a honey bucket.
If you guys, so when Colton makes little comments, you probably won't hear him because his audio is on the same track as the video. So just if you see his mouth move, you don't hear anything. Just know that's what's going on.
That's right.
Ian, stop. Okay, stop. I'm starting the video again.
Is
no more pausing
occupied by a Lowe's.
for at least 15 minutes.
Out front, near the loading area, there's an unceremonious little monument to the Pilots. A stand-up of a batter propped up next to the original location of home plate, holding eternal watch over a flock of lumber carts. It's so obviously in everybody's way. It's got to be a matter of time before some fed-up employee rips it out and throws it in storage. But for the moment, it's here. And it's all that remains of the one and only season of the Seattle Pilots. One of the worst ideas in the history of Major League Baseball. Let's take one last moment to appreciate that this stadium is literally named Six Stadium, and then close the door on this chapter forever. As quickly as the Seattle Pilots came, they were gone. However, anticipating the arrival of the Pilots, the city had, in the late 60s, already allocated funding for a brand new stadium. Seattle was so determined to land a baseball team and an NFL team that they broke ground on the site before the city was promised either one. The Kingdome was a cavernous, all-purpose indoor arena with about 3 times as many seats as Six Stadium ever had. It wasn't blind faith, though. A lawsuit, first threatened in 1970 as a means of keeping baseball in Seattle, had spent all decade looming over the American League. It finally went to court in 1976. And for the second time in 10 years, the league responded to a lawsuit with a resounding, fine, whatever, and granted Seattle a brand new baseball team. To name the team, they turned to the public and asked for submissions. The winning entry, Mariners, was submitted by a Bellevue man named Roger Smotus. The team announced that in recognition, Smotus would be awarded season tickets. But they couldn't find him. They went to his apartment. They left him messages. After several weeks, nothing. Roger Smotus had vanished. So far, we've been unable to dig up any evidence that he was ever found. But thanks to him, we have a word for whatever it is the last 43 years have been. This team was delivered to us through arson, political strong-arming, poopy toilets, a lawsuit, and a missing person. Every team has its highs and lows, frustration, heartbreak, greatness, and confusion. But no other team is like this one. The Seattle Mariners are eminently lovable, profoundly human, and stunningly, outrageously weird. You may not buy this yet, but believe us when we say it. There is no more fascinating team across the entire history of American sports.
Those Mariners began play in 1977, and I loved their first year so much. Here, we see their game-by-game timeline. In game number 5, they fell to a losing record and never again made it back to 500. And thanks to a late-season slide, they finished their first campaign with a 64-98 record. But my favorite part about it is how often they just laid down for their opponent. On 9 different occasions, they lost by double-digit runs when no one else in MLB that year outside Atlanta absorbed even half as many bludgeonings. 5 of those 9 Seattle disasters came in August, too, meaning they accomplished within a single calendar month what 24 of the other 25 teams didn't throughout the entire season. A season that set the tone for their first decade of existence, which, by the way, featured 40 such whoopings. They lost at least 95 games in 6 of their first 10 seasons, and were on pace for a 7th were it not for a strike-shortened 1981 season. Altogether, they lost 924 games in that period, over 60 more than anyone else. A look at run differential is an even scarier sight. Powered by 5 dead last in MLB finishes in their first 10 seasons, they allowed nearly 1,400 more runs than they scored in that time, which is over 70% worse than the second worst team. Needless to say, they never even sniffed the top of the AL West to gain entry into the postseason. This green bar indicates the record of the division winner that season. In other words, the number of wins the Mariners would have needed to reach the playoffs. Excluding the strike campaign, they finished an average of 26.7 games out of playoff position each time the curtain closed on a season. Year after year, their September games were about as meaningful as the human appendix. Even worse, whereas plenty of teams at least have some star power or reasons for excitement, the first era of Mariner baseball lacked in all that. In none of those 10 seasons did the Mariners have a starting pitcher with an ERA under 3. They didn't have a player reach even 30 homers in a season until year 9, when Gorman Thomas hit 32. The very best players that had come through their organization were pretty anonymous names that would have been merely run-of-the-mill players on virtually any other team. Their top pitchers were guys like Floyd Bannister and Jim Beattie. Their best bats during this time were perhaps Bruce Bochy and, even though he didn't even peak for them until later on, Alvin Davis. If you're familiar with them, you know they weren't exactly folks that put asses in seats. If you're not familiar with them, well, they weren't exactly folks that put asses in seats. So, why in the world would anyone watch this team?
If you choose to appreciate sports simply in terms of winning and losing, there is nothing for you here. If it's meaningful drama you want, you're out of luck. Even if all you're after is a narrative arc of any kind, I'm sorry, we're sold out. All the early Mariners have to offer is a scattering of bizarre stories, most of which involve some form or another of fraud.
Toward the tail end of the 1980 season, Mariners pitcher Rick Honeycutt had a once promising season spiraling away from him. Through 10 starts that year, he was one of the league's best pitchers, had an ERA under 2.5. But then by late September, he was reeling. His ERA had ballooned to nearly 5 across starts 11 through 29, leading up to a ball game in Kansas City. In the third inning of that one, Royals left fielder Willie Wilson tripled off him, and while standing on third base, noticed some happenings on the mound that smelled fishier than a stroll through Pike Place Market. Wilson urged the umpire to check out both the ball and Honeycutt's hand. Sure enough, in an effort to combat his recent struggles, he was discovered to have taped a dang thumbtack against his finger to cut the baseball. That's gotta be one of the stupidest, most obvious ways to cheat, just even in a vacuum. But Honeycutt made it worse. So much worse. Honeycutt somehow just totally forgot about the presence of said thumbtack, rubbed his face, and in the process lacerated his forehead, almost poking his eye out and leading to a 10-game suspension. Naturally, once his playing days were done, Honeycutt would eventually go on to have a lengthy second career as a pitching coach.
The next Mariners season, the strike-shortened 1981, is one of the dumbest seasons imaginable. At first, they're managed by Maury Wills, who has parlayed an excellent career as a shortstop into one of the most disastrous managerial careers in the history of baseball. Maury Wills was baseball's equivalent of the modern-day venture capital startup guy. Despite never having managed a baseball game, he wrote a book claiming that he and he alone was going to disrupt baseball and guaranteed that he would turn a last-place team into a World Series champion in just 4 years. Well, you can see how that went. Among all those who have managed at least 50 games, he has one of the worst winning percentages we've seen since World War II. And among those who began their careers in the 80s or 90s, he's the worst by miles. In terms of strategy, managing a baseball team is far less complicated than coaching a football or basketball team. So what does it mean then to be a bad manager? Leave the demonstration to Maury Wills, who found every conceivable way to be bad at his job. For one, he was always full of it. When Rick Honeycutt was thrown out of that game after the thumbtack incident, Wills said he didn't understand why he was ejected because the explanation was confusing. There is no way that was a confusing conversation. It goes something like, your pitcher taped a thumbtack to his finger and you're not allowed to do that. But Wills never seemed to own up to
the end of the
anything.
conversation.
Everything was always someone else's fault, usually his players. They couldn't stand him, and they were only kind of joking when they suggested that they should start losing games on purpose to get him fired sooner. Wills was this odd combination of authoritarian and checked out. The authoritarian side of him would wake up his players in the middle of the night to make sure they were in bed and chase after kids who caught home runs during batting practice. The checked out side of him would talk about starting players who had been traded away a month ago and head for the airport in the middle of a spring training game. As skipper, Wills made so many tactical errors that it would take another 10 minutes to go through them all, but one stands alone as the most thunderously stupid idea of his managerial career. Prior to a home game against the Oakland A's on April 25th, Wills pulls aside the team's groundskeeper and tells him to illegally paint the batter's boxes longer than the rulebook specifies. It now sticks an extra foot toward the field. The alleged benefit is that one of Wills' hitters, Tom Paciorek, will get a little extra room to step forward as he swings. The drawback is that during a baseball game, there is a person whose job it is to stand right here and stare at the field. He's known as an umpire, and he's been standing here for 3 hours a day for many, many years. If anything looks different, he will immediately recognize it. So, in Will's desperate effort to keep the Mariners from getting caught for something, he 100% guarantees they will get caught for something else. When they do, and he's suspended, he says he's shocked and dumbfounded. Yeah, man, me too. I thought that was going to work for sure. He's fired a few weeks later, ending one of the funniest managerial stints ever. He's dumb, says Brad Golden, the Mariners' journeyman catcher, who, by the way, is traded to the Yankees shortly thereafter. Golden ended up in Seattle in the first place because the Yankees traded him there for a player to be named later, which is a fairly common practice in baseball. It turns out the player to be named later is Brad Golden, who returns to the Yankees and becomes the second player in baseball history to be traded for himself.
Also in that 81 season, more fun stuff in a Mariners-Royals game. In the 6th inning of their May 27th affair, KC center fielder Amos Otis hit this little dribbler up the third base line. Then, Seattle third baseman and part-time stand-up comic Lenny Randle did something you don't see every day. Something completely awesome. This. That's right. He got down on all fours and began furiously huffing and puffing and blowing at the ball in an effort to send it foul. And it worked. Well, sort of. His Three Little Pigs routine did indeed manipulate the ball over the chalk, and initially it was ruled a foul ball, with the home plate umpire unable to think of any specific rule against blowing the ball. But for the second year in a row, Royals manager Jim Fry was unamused by more Mariner ball-altering shenanigans, voicing his displeasure to home plate umpire Larry McCoy. Unfortunately, McCoy then changed his mind, refusing to just be cool and appreciate Randall's goof, instead awarding first base to Otis. This is something I've definitely thought about as it pertains to golf. If a putt stops just short, settling on the lip of the hole, I want to see golfers get down and blow it in. Randall, for the record, claims innocence, that he was merely yelling at the ball to go foul.
Oh, and a quick note on Lenny Randle, who was a pretty weak hitter in his Major League Baseball career. After retiring in 1982, he resurfaced in Italy a year later, hit .502, and became the god of Italian baseball. But 1981 isn't through with the Mariners yet. Just a few days after Randall's heroics, we see Seattle right fielder Jeff Burroughs being tagged out at home by the Rangers' Larry Cox. Cox is wearing the Rangers logo. Burroughs is also wearing the Rangers logo. Two teams with the same hats. And it's probably the only time this has ever happened, and I think it's great. It always makes me cringe a little whenever I see two baseball teams playing against each other, because they would accomplish so much more if they were all on the same team and they worked together to achieve their goals, but sadly, the reality is a little bit more mundane. The Mariners' caps, helmets, and jerseys were stolen from the Rangers stadium. They did at least have their practice jerseys, but they had to borrow some of the Rangers' batting helmets to wear to the plate. They also threw a third team into the mix by hitting up the stadium gift shop and grabbing Milwaukee Brewers caps to wear in the field, choosing them because they closely resembled the Mariners' color scheme. This, of course, is because the Brewers stole the color scheme from Seattle in the first place when they packed up and left town. Anyway, freed from the oppression of being the Seattle Mariners for one night, they win 5-3. In the standings, 1981 was yet another genuinely meaningless season of Seattle baseball, but it was a big year for a couple of Mariners. Reliever Larry Anderson had languished in the minors for an entire decade before pitching well and finally securing a permanent roster spot. In the next season, he finally got his very own Major League Baseball card. Whoops, they spelled his name wrong. 1981 was also the year manager Rene Lachemann took the reins from Maury Wills, and although the Mariners finished well below .500, he earned the respect of his players and was kept on as the permanent manager for 1982. This, of course, earned him his very own baseball card. Whoops, they spelled his name wrong too. Now, both of these cards were from the Donruss Card Company's 1982 set. I looked through this entire 830 card set, and I didn't find misspellings of players on any other team, only Mariners. This was no coincidence. Even to those in the baseball business, these guys were strangers. But not to us. Under Lachemann, the Mariners' sixth season was their best yet. They'd managed to take a winning record all the way into August, which they'd never before come anywhere close to doing. But who cares? There were greater matters at hand. Because for Rene Lachemann, this was the summer of Mr. Jello. News of the incident hits papers nationwide on July 4th, 1982, exactly 50 years to the day after Robert Bruce Driscoll's act of destruction set this endless chain of events into motion. The night prior, Lachemann returns to his hotel suite in Chicago. It's a luxury suite, complete with 2 bathrooms and quite well furnished, but when Lachemann enters, he finds that everything has disappeared. The paintings are gone from the walls. The furniture is missing. He reaches to turn on a light. Nothing. The bulb has been removed. Lachemann stumbles in darkness to the bedroom and feels for his bed. It isn't there. The walls are empty here as well. How is this possible? Perhaps the bathroom light works. All his furniture is piled up in the bathroom. He turns to look at the toilet. The toilet is full of Jello. Lachemann races to the other bathroom. The other toilet is also full of Jello. He finds that the wall telephone is still there. He attempts to call his fellow coaches and players. He can hear them, but they cannot hear him. The mouthpiece has been removed from the phone. No one can hear his screams. Lachemann sleeps on the floor that night. The next day, he dedicates himself to bringing the perpetrator to justice, offering a reward of hundreds of dollars for information leading to the culprit. This week, the Mariners will go 7 games above .500, which the Mariners have never done and will never do again until 1991. But who cares about that? There is toilet mystery afoot. At first, Lachemann suspects ex-Mariner Tom Paciorek, who now plays for the nearby White Sox and lives in the area. When Paciorek supplies a convincing alibi, the trail goes cold. The remainder of the season, Lachemann is taunted by anonymous room service orders for plates full of Jello that are delivered to his suite. Who would do this to the team's manager? Surely not a player, who has every incentive not to get on his bad side. And yet, when the chief collaborator reveals himself at season's end, it turns out to be someone who had everything to lose. Larry Anderson, one of baseball history's all-time greatest pranksters, had talked his way into getting Latchman's room key and orchestrated the entire thing. After finally clawing his way into the bigs, Anderson is having an awful 1982 on the mound. At the time of the incident, his ERA is 5.91, absolutely bad enough to get him sent back down to the minors. And if that happens at age 29, his career is just about done. Why in the world would he give Latchman any more reason to ship him out? Well, listen, you've got to occupy yourself with something, and that something cannot be baseball. Because baseball is really boring.
Let's move forward a few years to 1985. Going into July 9th, the Mariners were 41-40, entering the second half of the season with a winning record, an extremely rare feat for this ball club. They hosted Toronto that day in what was the 622nd game they'd ever played in a season's back half. But it was just the 26th that they entered above 500, the previous 25 coming in that 82 season. And as we'll see, they clearly had no idea how to conduct themselves in such unfamiliar territory. They got a rally going in the third inning with Phil Bradley in scoring position and less than 2 out for cleanup hitter Gorman Thomas, who banged this hit to right. Jesse Barfield fielded it and fired a beautiful throw home in time to get Bradley. But this one resulted in a massive collision with Blue Jays catcher Buck Martinez, who shattered his leg and dislocated his ankle. Thomas, a good pal of Martinez's from their 3 years as teammates in Milwaukee, tried to take advantage of that incapacitation by advancing to third base. Martinez still noticed and was able to get a throw off to third, but it sailed into left field where George Bell scooped it up and launched a throw home where Thomas was attempting to complete the 360-foot jaunt around the base path. And who was on the receiving end of that throw home? Why, it's the catcher, who's still writhing around on the ground, completely and literally broken. No matter, he's got a job to do. Martinez hauls in the throw and applies the tag to his buddy, who mercifully took his foot off the gas to avoid another collision. Thus, MLB's first ever 9-2-7-2 double play was born. The Mariners had done the seemingly impossible. They figured out a way to get multiple players thrown out at home by multiple different outfielders on the same play. Astonishing stuff from the M's, who would go on to lose 9-4, in the process kicking off a new multi-year drought of not entering any second half game with a winning record.
A 1985 survey asked Seattle area residents to name their favorite Mariner. The vast majority responded that they didn't know any. Every Mariners retrospective has to find something from this era to talk about, as much as we wish we could begin the story in the 90s. Usually the greatest achievement we can come up with is Gaylord Perry's 300th win in 1982. Even then, Perry was a journeyman who just happened to be a Mariner the day he did it. Oh, but lest you doubt he was a real Mariner, he'd be ejected and suspended a couple months later for doctoring the ball with Vaseline. Alongside Alvin Davis, the most recognizable player of the early years is probably Harold Reynolds, a two-time All-Star who was one of the best defensive second basemen of his era. He was also known for being thrown out on the bases, which he can't really be blamed for entirely. The Mariners utilized Reynolds, a very fast guy, as a very, very, very fast guy. In 1988, the consequence was the most counterproductive stolen base campaign of the last 90 years. Here is every player who's ever been caught at least 25 times in a season, plotted as a percentage of their stolen base attempts. In the 1910s, players went for steals with reckless abandon before everyone seemingly realized at the same time that it was a really bad idea. About 50 years later, stealing came back into vogue before everyone realized this again. Exhibit A was 1988 Harold Reynolds, who was caught 29 times against just 35 successful steals. In fact, Reynolds' top YouTube search result from his playing career is a clip of him being thrown out. It's one of the most memorable clips in Bo Jackson's endless highlight reel. From the warning track, he ignores the cutoff man entirely and fires an impossibly perfect strike into home. After the game, Reynolds was reportedly sitting in front of a VCR, watching it over and over again, trying to figure out how the hell it happened. This is how it was for the Mariners back then. They just kind of experienced the baseball other teams were playing. They weren't anyone's rival, they weren't even a national laughingstock in the way some other teams were. They simply did not register. As it concerns the Mariners, the only real important story was beginning on the other side of the country, in the Bronx. The year is most likely 1983. The Yankees manager is Billy Martin. Over the course of his managerial career, Martin got into a bar fight with one of his own players on multiple occasions. He busted a reporter's face open because he wouldn't show him his notes. He fought a stranger at a hotel bar after he insulted what the man did for a living, which was entirely inappropriate. There's absolutely nothing funny about being a marshmallow salesman. You go from town to town, probably have a suitcase with a bunch of marshmallows in it. Point being, Billy Martin was perhaps the most difficult person in the modern history of baseball. On this particular day, as the story goes, a lot of the players' kids are running around the clubhouse, but 2 kids are singled out in particular. Martin sends one of the team assistants to tell their father, the star first baseman, that his kids need to be quiet. The player naturally takes it as an insult. So does his oldest son, who would be about 13 years old at this time. This kid will hold a grudge against the New York Yankees for decades to come. You know his name.
I feel like that's a good spot to stop for a second. What do you think?
So that's
It's hard to do this without being able to add commentary.
Yeah, I mean, we're just watching. You know, I'm just sitting here enjoying, man. You know, I'm here having a great old time.
That's right.
It's a good place to stop because I mean, it's 6 original videos that they put into one, and that is like, literally chills. Like,
Chills.
I got chills. Absolute.
Yeah. Do you think so? If you walked in to your hotel room and everything was gone and the toilets were filled with Jello, are you mad?
I'm just confused, and then I'm mad. Like, I think maybe temperament has changed over the last, say, 40 years, but I feel like I would have been more mad in the 80s than I would be in 2026 because of way, like, technology. Like, he doesn't have a phone to pull out and turn on a flashlight. He's just got his wits about him. Satellite moment, shame. He just has.
Dude, we had a satellite moment early on in me watching the stream through here, and it was a screaming sound.
Screaming?
It was awesome. It was like it was trying to play the video over Discord, and instead it was just like a high pitched like
a frequency
tone the whole time. Yeah.
Oh, well, that part where they're doing the like they're playing, like someone asked, like, or I think it was Army Men, like asking, like, do we hear that beeping? It's like the backtrack stuff in this video in this is insane. Like, not in a bad way, but like there's a lot kind of going on an audio level that I was not expecting, but like it sets like the ambient kind of like storytelling aspect of it. Yeah, I knew the Jello story because one of Jake's what's it called? Cahoots. So like some of this information is familiar, but I've never seen it presented in this way. Like, I knew the 6 stadium stuff, but like I think I knew that outside of that Cahoot, but
yeah, it's a good reminder here from Honda that Rick Riz started broadcasting the Mariners in 1983, so he was experiencing this along with us.
Yeah.
During all of this. So, Mitchell, I feel less bad about not having many of those players on my top 50. Great stories, terrible players and teams. Yeah, I mean, in the end, I think that the players from those teams that deserved to be on the top 50 will probably get there. Like, Harold Reynolds will be there. You'll have Alvin Davis on there more than likely.
Yeah.
You know, guys like you,
Bannister.
Are you gonna see Ken Phelps on there? Like, maybe
3rd best DH in Mariners history, by the way.
It was during our live stream where we did that. It was a whole debate on whether or not he should be on there. So I actually don't remember if we put him on there or not. But yeah, I mean, the lean years of the Mariners. Thankfully, we're going to get into the more exciting stuff here in just a minute. But yeah, those were the rough times as Mariners fans, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have anybody in here that actually lived through those times.
Yeah.
But if you lived through those times, you can attest to it in the chat really quick and let us know.
Yeah.
I personally can't imagine.
I like hearing the shut up, Felipe. I like hearing the names that like we forget or like have become aware of because of Sporkle, like Gorman Thomas, Phil Bradley. Like, having more context to who the player is, less than they're just a name that I know that played for the Mariners kind of a vibe. Like
Right.
I think that's going to be a rewarding part of this for me, is like adding context to information that I am privy to, but don't really know why I am, you know?
Right. Yeah. You only know it because you've seen it on Sporkle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This first part is like what I would describe. Are you saying like we're about to get to the good stuff? I loved that. Like that was like art house film kind of Mariner stuff where it's like nothing good happens. You're just watching it along for the ride, and like you just like see where it goes. And now you get to the part where you know, we all know kind of the direction that it's going to head in, but you finally get some good stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's true. It's what we just watched was not a lot of people know those stories because why would they?
Frankly,
Everyone knows the story of '95. They know, you know, the 2000s team. So yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
The really good storytellers. I mean, this is expertly crafted. I'll glaze it all I want. I don't care. As a biased Mariners fan, I mean that. Like I get why people consider this like magnum opus kind of stuff for like sports documentaries on YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you ready for part 2?
Let's do it. Let's get into the 90s.
In the 90s, baby. Oh, that was really loud. I'm sorry. That was really jarring. The Kid. Bro's
The
got
son
the
of Ken
massage
Griffey
gun out.
is the most beloved baseball player of the last 50 years. Fans were worried that they wouldn't ever get to see a player make it into the Hall of Fame with a Mariners hat on his plaque. Not because Jr. wouldn't get in. Everyone saw that coming 20 years before the fact, but because it was rumored that his plaque would be sculpted with his hat on backwards. He'd always worn it like that, not as any kind of statement, but because he was always wearing his dad's Reds hat as a little kid and it kept falling in his face unless he turned it around. The public image of Jr. was one of a guy who, on top of being astounding at baseball, had more fun than anyone. Always laughing, starring in funny commercials, pulling increasingly ingenious and elaborate pranks on his teammates. The story of the real Ken Griffey Jr. was incompatible with what we saw. The Mariners made Jr. 1987's #1 overall draft pick, signing him right out of high school. He became a celebrity very quickly, tearing through the minors and receiving a spring training invite with big leaguers in 1989. He played so well that manager Jim Lefebvre had no choice but to start him at center field on opening day. He's shown us he can do everything, Lefebvre said. There isn't one thing he can't do. Others agreed. In their 1989 set, the brand new Upper Deck Baseball Card Company reserved their #1 slot, traditionally reserved for a superstar, for a 19-year-old who had yet to appear in a single Major League Baseball game. He didn't let him down. Wins above replacement is a metric that attempts to estimate a player's overall value to his team in terms of wins. Junior's mark in '89 was just over 3, the best baseball had seen from a teenage position player in over 60 years. His season could have been even better had he not missed a month of action after slipping and falling in the shower. Junior was already becoming the first great Seattle Mariner. The first era, the era of forgotten bums piecing together losing season after losing season in a far-flung corner of the country, was over, and Junior ended it. Most have no idea of what he went through. At age 17, he was shipped off from a Cincinnati home to play minor league ball in Bellingham, Washington. He literally could not have been sent any further from home. Ken Sr., a 3-time All-Star, knew what it was to be a baseball star, but his son's journey was something else entirely. Junior was saddled with massive expectations before his 18th birthday. The pressure, coupled with the loneliness of being so far from home, weighed on him enormously. He struggled with depression, and years later he would disclose that he once made an attempt on his own life in this time. But that time, and every time, Senior was there, helping him navigate an experience that no one can truly be ready for. What was once a combative relationship between the two faded as Senior came to recognize the burden his son was carrying. Sometimes, he said, the only privacy he gets is out in center field. Here's Jr. during a game in 1990, chasing down an outfield fly. His dad is in the building, looking on. When Jr. pulls a classic Jr. move and steals the catch from the left fielder, all Sr. can do is laugh. There he is. The 40-year-old Griffey was teammates with his 20-year-old son. Not only that, the two were neighbors in the outfield and batted right next to each other in the lineup. In one of baseball's best-known pieces of trivia, they became the first father-son duo to hit back-to-back home runs. Sure, acquiring Sr. in the first place was probably a publicity stunt, but you're gonna hear these words from me quite often. Who cares? In '92, thanks to unreliable pitching, they followed up their first ever winning season by dipping far into the red, seemingly undoing years of positive momentum. They had now finished dead last in the standings for the 6th time in their 16-year history. For reasons we'll eventually get into, this wasn't such a bad thing. Meet Jay Buhner. In one of the great heists of the 1980s, the Mariners had fleeced the dreaded Yankees out of the power-hitting right fielder, giving up only Greg Phelps in return. Okay, so here's my chance to solve a decades-old mystery for people who watched Seinfeld but didn't watch baseball.
Yeah, wait a minute.
It's Ken Phelps.
Is that a mistake in my John Boy's documentary?
Hang on. Look at that picture of Buhner. Oh my God.
Yeah, the hair.
He's got the Dylan Moore hairline.
He's got my dad's hairline, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
I don't think I've ever seen a picture of Jay Buhner with hair.
What if Ken Phelps' real first name is Greg?
I'm Googling it. Let's see.
Mike, hello. I know we're finally doing it. Part 1 today. No, his name is Kenneth Allen. John Boy's
unbelievable.
Classic
John Boy's.
Classic John Boy's L. Am I right, Chet? Okay. They were all saying Ken Phelps. Okay. Greg Phelps should be a Mariners top 50 greatest, but Ken Phelps should.
Put him in there.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thanks for watching,
Let's
fellas.
go, Mike.
Absolutely, Mike. Appreciate you, dog.
That's our goat.
That's our goat right there. Okay, I'm going to start it because it's probably going to be loud again in 3, 2, 1.
Remember the episode where Frank Costanza starts yelling at George Steinbrenner out of nowhere about some guy named Jay Buhner?
What the hell did you trade Jay Buhner for? You don't know what the hell you're doing!
And Steinbrenner goes on instead about some guy named Ken Phelps.
My baseball people love Ken Phelps back. They kept saying Ken Phelps, Ken Phelps.
Well, this is what Frank was so mad about. Unlike Griffey, Buhner is not a five-tool player. He doesn't steal bases, hit for average, or field all that well. He is, however, a master practitioner of blurping. Blurping is a term Buhner himself came up with, and it refers to the act of vomiting on cue for the purpose of eliciting pukes from nearby sympathy vomiters. Why?
That would be you.
These are the Seattle Mariners. We'll never be able to answer why questions. When, what, who? Sure, we can help you with those questions. But not why. Buhner demonstrated his true mastery of the craft during a game in 1992. In right field, Buhner executed a blurp, spilling his lunch on the turf. It must have been a remarkable performance because when left fielder Kevin Mitchell watched from about 200 feet away, he became queasy and began puking as well. Finally, Griffey Jr. looked over from center field. He couldn't hold it in and began to vomit. The entire Seattle Mariners outfield was vomiting at the same time. Jay Buhner had just executed the triple blurp in the middle of a baseball game.
Wow.
Cinema. Absolute cinema.
By the time 1993 rolled around, Griffey's game reached new heights, and at age 23 was making history to be as great as he was, as young as he was. On July 25th, after homering in each of the previous 5 nights, this shot off Jose Mesa made him the youngest player to ever go deep in 6 consecutive games. Then he did it again in the game after that. Then he did it again in the game after that.
First pitch from Banks, walk away. There it goes! See you later! Upper deck! Griffey has tied the Major League record! Holy cow, the kid has done it!
Tying the all-time record at 8 straight that to this day has only been done by 2 other players regardless of age. When the dust settled on that season, he'd topped a batting average of 300 to go along with 45 homers. It all led to the most total bases by a 23-year-old since Hank Aaron back in 1957. At that point, Griffey's career totals included 132 homers, 1,428 total bases, and 453 RBI. That was the most career dingers anyone his age had hit since Frank Robinson. Only Mel Ott, over 60 years prior, had accumulated that many total bases, while a player so young hadn't driven in over 450 runs since Ted Williams prior to departing MLB to fight in World War II. Combined with his 4th straight Gold Glove, if it wasn't clear before, 1993 removed any and all doubt that we were witnessing a once-in-a-generation talent blossoming before our very eyes.
Just like the 1981 season, 1994 was shortened by a labor dispute. And just like 81, 94 was monumentally weird for the Mariners. One of the most sought-after records was the single-season home run mark of 61, set by Roger Maris in 1961. In the 3+ decades to follow, only 3 guys, 1965 Willie Mays, 1977 George Foster, and 1990 Cecil Fielder, came within even 10 of that number, and those guys lost pace with him before the season was even half over. But in 1994, Griffey, who we see here in green, helped to lead an armada of players in pursuit of Maris and his record. Matt Williams, Jeff Bagwell, Frank Thomas, Barry Bonds, and Albert Bell were bum-rushing the history books. But it felt like Jr., who of course was capable of going on home run tears without warning, had the best shot. The strike wiped out the season in August, and ever since we've been left to wonder what would have happened. I'm left in a state of personal conflict here. On one hand, collective action is good and labor strikes are cool. On the other hand, I was looking forward to seeing where the squiggly lines were going to go on my computer screen. The strike also denied us a chance to witness some history that was headed in the opposite direction. Over the years, there had been 7 teams in the AL West. With that much competition, the Mariners had no chance of contending. But in '94, the American League was realigned. There were now only 4 teams. And as luck would have it, all 4 were garbage. The strike mercifully abbreviated what probably would have ended up as the worst division in baseball history. At the end of it, the Rangers were leading the West with a 52-62 record. The Mariners, despite being as bad as ever, were only a couple games out. It was the closest they'd ever come to first at the end of a season. And if everyone else getting worse is what it took to get the Mariners into contention, so be it. Forget their win-loss record, though. Who cares? The Seattle Mariners seemed like the team of the future. They were wearing new uniforms now, with a redesigned logo and an electric blue jersey. In a time when domes were still cool, they played in the Kingdome, which sat in the shadow of the Cascades, and in the middle of a mysterious distant city whose cultural exports were computer stuff and Nirvana and the Space Needle. Around this time, I was growing up in places I found ordinary, because you always think the place you live in is ordinary. It was easy to assign a mystique to this faraway, futuristic paradise and the superhero who lived there. After some early 90s rumblings of a potential move to Florida, the anxiety of keeping baseball in Seattle had vanished as well. In a turn of events that sounds made up by an 8-year-old, a majority stake in the Mariners was bought by Hiroshi Yamauchi, the president of Nintendo. Yamauchi was a billionaire who had never been to a baseball game, didn't know who Ken Griffey Jr. was, and seemed to be more interested in expanding Nintendo of America's footprint than actually turning a profit. He wasn't prepared for how happy the Mariners actually made people. As he put it, it was as though the money he spent was alive. Throughout its history, Seattle baseball was regularly in trouble, and its only victory was in simply being allowed to exist. Now they had real identity. They had their superstar. They were the coolest team in baseball. Somehow, things had come together. It was the perfect time for things to fall apart. While the team was warming up on July 19th, 4 of the Kingdome's ceiling tiles fell and collapsed into the seats. Nobody was hurt, but Mariners games were immediately relocated to other venues, and the players' strike ensured that there would be no more Mariners home games throughout the rest of the season. The team's ownership group leveraged this to demand public money for a new stadium to replace the Kingdome, which wasn't yet 20 years old. If they didn't get this funding, they would sell the team, likely to someone who would move them out of town. There was no way this was happening again. Not now. Not the minute Seattle baseball finally found relevance after all these decades. It wasn't fair. In a different, more normal world, a baseball team would build a baseball stadium and play there, and that would be that. It's as though Seattle baseball has to perpetually fight simply to exist, as though it's running afoul of the order of the universe. It's determined that a special election will be held in September of 1995. The public will, in effect, decide whether an increase in sales tax is worth keeping the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners themselves, who have never reached the playoffs or even finished better than third in their division, have no choice but to convince the public by making their case on the field. They'll be led by Lou Piniella, now 3 years into his decade-long career as the Mariners manager, and beloved by players and fans alike. Piniella had been Ken Griffey Sr.'s teammate in New York, and when he became manager of the Yankees, Sr. was traded away. A couple years later, Sr. was playing for the Reds, who hired Piniella to be his manager again, and under Pinella's watch, Sr. was traded away again. Regardless, Sr. always liked Piniella, and so did Jr. No one in recent memory can throw a more theatrical temper tantrum than Lou. He'll deliver his magnum opus in Cleveland a few years from now, in which he enters a sort of fugue state and doesn't even remember everything he said or did. After arguing a call and getting thrown out of the game, he indignantly throws his hat into the infield. He spends another moment in the umpire's face, then spins around and kicks his hat. He kicks again, more angrily this time, and just about misses his hat entirely. Lou switches course after this, punting the hat into shallow center and jawing with the umps some more. He stomps over, bends down, flips the hat back in the infield, and squares up for a kick this time, punting it further. 5 kicks, 6 kicks, 7, until he navigates back into the dirt. Finally, he picks up his cap and makes his exit, but not before he throws it into the crowd with one final flourish. A helpful Cleveland fan throws it back at him, which Lou seemed to appreciate after the game. Point being, Lou Piniella is the appropriate man to lead this team. The Mariners start the season 14-12. The evening of May 26th, the Orioles' Kevin Bass smacks one deep into right center. It's the 7th inning of a regular season baseball game in May. Griffey doesn't have to do what he's about to do, but Ken Griffey Jr. can only be great. He has no other choice. He sprints about 20 miles, takes off, throws himself at the wall, makes one of the most iconic catches of the 1990s, and hits the ground 10 feet away from his hat. It's estimated that the Mariners, who haven't done much of anything in 6 seasons with their superstar, will be without him for 3 months. Meanwhile, the Mariners and the California Angels are fighting for the division lead. While the Mariners spend June trading wins and losses at an even rate, the Angels are positioning themselves for a run, which they finally begin in mid-July. In this span, they go a remarkable 17-3, and even those 3 losses were squeakers. One was a 1-run loss, one an extra innings loss, and one a walk-off. Those 17 wins, more than half came by at least 5 runs. The Angels are clobbering the American League. In fact, up to this point in the season, they have far and away the best run differential in all of baseball. The Mariners all the way down here at +3, almost the definition of mediocre. Throughout the Angels' streak, they've gone nowhere and are now 13 games out of the lead. Time is running out. Griffey actually returns to the field a few games ahead of schedule, but nothing much changes. California is holding steady as a rock at about 25 games over 500, and Seattle is just lying there like a beached whale. This is all they'd ever done. Even now, with the public vote less than a month away and the people of Seattle to impress, the Mariners had failed to present any other version of themselves. It seemed as though they had no other version of themselves. Across their entire 19-year history, they've experienced one day at 10 games over 500. Approximately 24 hours in August of 1991. That's it. Suppose they somehow rally in this very short window and get there again. Great. They're less than halfway there. This is a team with no meaningful past to speak of, and, in all likelihood, no future. There is only the present. There is nothing to do but march. Whoa.
This does sound like Stranger Things.
Something terrible has
80s
happened
synth,
to the
baby.
California Angels. They're getting ejected. They're fighting with each other. In general, they're starting to lose it. And it's easy to understand why. Losing 9 games in a row while holding the division lead is horrifying enough. But this one is like no other. Over these 9 games, they've been outscored by 48 runs, or just over 5 per game. They've gotten absolutely thumped. Now, it's true that up to this point, there have been 36 9-game streaks in baseball history that were this bad. But look at who they happened to. Almost all of these teams were way under 500. They were already totally cooked by the time the losing streak began. And in fact, a good number of these streaks belong to some of the worst teams in the history of the game. The only team anywhere near the 95 Angels is the 1957 Redlegs, who were 61-49, but they were in 4th place, and a postseason appearance was pretty unlikely for them. These Angels were in first place by a huge margin. They were cruising. In what feels at first like too little too late, the Mariners finally smell blood in the water. When they wake up on the morning of September 19th, they're suddenly only 2 games behind. It's their big day. That evening, they rally from a 4-1 deficit to take the Rangers into extra innings. In the bottom of the 11th, Griffey finds himself down to his final strike. What's important to know about Jr. is that he's far more than just a power hitter. Most pitches aren't home run opportunities, but many, including some well outside the strike zone, are a chance to slap one through. And with a man on second, that is all the Mariners need.
Here it comes, and it swung on and lined off the glove of the third baseman Ortiz. Here comes Strain. The Mariners win it.
Down south, the Angels lose again. Then, they watch the news and wait. With most of the ballots counted, the measure to fund a new Mariners stadium, thereby keeping them in Seattle, currently leads by a thin margin. But these are just the voters who showed up today. Around 45,000 absentee ballots are still out there, and they were cast some time ago by voters who hadn't yet seen the lunacy that's currently unfolding. These voters have been watching these Mariners, the Miracle Mariners. The votes yet to be counted are from people who know nothing but these Mariners. The counting continues. The next day, it's announced that with close to 500,000 votes counted, the lead has shrunk to 300. There are still 15,000 votes yet to be counted. That night, the Mariners come from behind again to knock off the A's 10-7. Down in Texas, the Angels answer with another loss. This happens again and again. The Seattle Mariners are now leading the American League West. If they hold on, they're headed to the playoffs for the first time in their history. It all happened so quickly, it's disorienting. The Angels cheated fate by dropping 9 in a row down the home stretch and keeping a comfortable lead, but then, after briefly gathering themselves, they dropped 9 in a row again. Losing streaks of this size are extraordinarily rare in baseball. Since the Angels were founded 35 years ago, they've only suffered a handful, and typically during seasons in which they were way out of the playoff race and didn't have much to play for. Now, at the worst possible time, they've suffered 2 in the space of a month. No new results from King County votes since the 21st. It's time to meet 2 more heroes. First, Tino Martinez, just another of the Mariners' seemingly endless supply of power hitters. His career will be defined by memorable clutch home runs, although many of them come after he leaves Seattle. And then, there's Dave Niehaus.
I have zero emotional investment in the Mariners, but the way their longtime broadcaster Dave Niehaus would call big moments still made my goosebumps get goosebumps. And whether it was his trademark phrases like breaking out the rye bread and mustard for a grand salami, or just his overall infectious enthusiasm that made a random Tuesday night in August feel like Game 7 of the World Series, he simply had a unique way to connect with fans and bring the game to life. Tragically, Niehaus was taken from us far too soon, shortly following the 2010 season, leaving a void that's truly impossible to fill. For so long, through years and years of misery, the one thing Mariner fans could take solace in was knowing they'd be treated to Niehaus's pure brilliance for 3 hours, night after night, starting with their first pitch in 1977 and continuing for 34 years and nearly 5,300 games thereafter.
It's a wild, back-and-forth game between the Mariners and Athletics. Down by a run in the bottom of the ninth, Tino Martinez steps in with a man on first. Listen closely here as Dave Niehaus's voice momentarily fades out before returning closer to the mic.
Here comes the pitch to Tino. Swung on and belted deep to right field. And that will be flying away. And the Mariners win it.
He was probably spinning in his chair.
I asked in part 1 why anyone would want to watch the Mariners in those atrocious early days. Well, there's your reason. Regardless of the quality or lack thereof of the product put forth on the field, Niehaus always provided an A++ broadcast.
Bad news comes on the 26th. The measure has, for the time being, lost the lead, but it's still alive. There are still about 3,000 ballots yet to be counted. After weeks of sniping at one another from different parts of the country, the Angels finally have to drag their sorry asses up to Seattle and meet their conquerors in person. They get thumped 10-2 thanks to homers from Griffey Jr. It's their 7th consecutive win, and the Mariners now lead the West by 3 games with just 6 to play. The next day, it becomes clear. The vote has failed. The Mariners lose to the Angels that afternoon, win their next 2 games against the Rangers, and end up splitting the series in Texas after getting thumped 9-2 and 9-3. They left exactly enough room for the Angels to catch up to them, and the Angels did. Their 144-game schedule ends in a tie. It necessitates something Major League Baseball hasn't seen in 15 years. A special 1-game tiebreaker between the Mariners and Angels to decide who goes to the playoffs. What comes next for the Mariners and where they end up playing next year, no one can really say. But if nothing else, this much is guaranteed. The Seattle Mariners will play one more baseball game. The final game of an absurd season will turn out to be its most absurd. For one, the timing is odd. This is without question the most important game the Mariners have ever played, and yet the first pitch is at 1 p.m. on a Monday afternoon. Well, at least it was the biggest story of that Monday afternoon, right? No, it wasn't. It's time to meet Randy Johnson. Who, at 6'10", became the tallest player in the history of Major League Baseball when he entered the bigs in 1988. Everyone thought he had greatness in him. It showed up in flashes, most notably in 1990, when he threw the first no-hitter in Mariners history. But he led the league in walks 3 years in a row, and his ERA hung around 4, placing him around the middle of the pack. And then, Nolan Ryan came to town. Before a Mariners-Rangers game in 1992, Johnson ran into the future Hall of Famer and confessed that something in his mechanics wasn't working. Ryan said, "Hey, try landing on the front of your foot instead of your heel." Randy listened. And just like that, his numbers drastically improved, and he was well on his way to becoming one of the most accomplished pitchers baseball has ever seen. He was also among the most intimidating. He had a 102-mile-per-hour fastball, but his most devastating pitch was a 90-mile-per-hour slider that had so much on it that it looked like a fastball. It was almost unfair. It was called Mr. Snappy.
So with the future of the organization hanging in the balance, Seattle skipper Lou Piniella had the ultimate ace up his sleeve, as he was able to give the ball to Johnson on short rest. And it's completely clear why that seemingly risky move wasn't so risky, but was in fact the obvious call. The big unit wasn't just the team's top pitcher, but he was the very best in the entire American League by miles. In terms of both OPS allowed and ERA, no one was close to him. He notched at least 12 strikeouts in 9 games, existing on his own stratosphere relative to the rest of the league on his way to fanning nearly 300 batters despite an abbreviated MLB season. So while Seattle had the runaway Cy Young winner on the hill, the Angels ace was out of commish, with all-star Chuck Finley having tossed over 100 pitches the prior afternoon to get him to this game. That meant the Angels' hopes rested on longtime Mariner Mark Langston, who Seattle had traded to Montreal in the deal that landed him Johnson. The Mariners were oozing confidence in a game that they got to host based on the flip of a coin. Piniella saw a win as a foregone conclusion. So did left fielder Vince Coleman. And Randy was indeed an untouchable force of nature for the first 6 innings of this one, retiring each of the Angels' first 17 batters before his bid for perfection was broken up by his ex-roommate of all people. Langston was pretty good too, allowing just 1 run through 6. But then, things got away from him in the 7th. The Mariners loaded up the bases with former Angel Luis Sojo at the dish, who then punched a grounder to the right that probably should have been an ending 3-1 putout, but that instead, first baseman JT Snow flubbed. Snow could only watch as the ball blooped into foul territory and underneath the Angels' bullpen bench. By the time right fielder Tim Salmon dug it up, 2 Mariners had scored. An unfortunate set of circumstances turned disastrous when Langston's throwing error allowed for the ultimate embarrassment. 4 runs scoring on a ball that touched an infielder's glove for what has to be the first and only time in the history of organized baseball. Thanks to the fielding work of 2 Angels that would each win Gold Gloves that season. That is baseball for you. With the game now blown wide open, the M's could just sit back and ride Johnson to the AL West title.
Well, now the Seattle Mariners are guaranteed to exist for at least a few more days as they move on to make their first ever playoff appearance in the 1995 ALDS. And if this were a work of fiction, this is exactly the way we would write it.
Man,
Dare I say cinema?
absolute
Absolute.
absolute cinema.
My
Yeah,
God.
that's crazy.
Mike, thanks
I
for the
mean-
5 gifted members and the super chat.
Yeah,
I
shut up,
appreciate
Mike. That's Joe hates you, Mike. Isn't that crazy?
Is that another satellite moment as soon as the episode ends, essentially? That's kind of crazy.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? Here's where it gets real. How we feeling, boys? Man, when I heard Rick and Dave on the call,
Yeah, I mean, I've already like teared up like twice.
yeah, I definitely could feel it a little bit. I blame Rick. I blame Rick for everything today.
Yeah.
It already made me emotional about it.
Oh,
but, you know.
don't worry, Ian. We're watching the next one.
Yeah,
we're
we're
not-
watching through the end of 95,
Through
or
the-
maybe does it go to 2000? How
No.
far are we?
Episode 3, because I looked at the episodes. The
Did you?
4th episode starts with 96. So I'm pretty
Oh,
sure
okay.
episode 3 is like just the playoffs, I think.
That-
Ride Johnson, dude, Blake. I was like, excuse me.
Go on.
They're
Here,
gonna
I'm
ride
pee
what?
really quick.
Sure. A little intermission.
I'm back.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like again, I have not seen this, but from what I gathered from the 6 different parts, this entire episode is just the battle for Seattle, I imagine. So, seen and heard this story so many times, but damn, 95 hits me hard. As someone who wasn't alive and has not seen this kind of play out like this, haven't seen this before, fake fan. That's what I'm saying, dude. I'm trying to get my real Mariners fan card back. Yeah, dude. I mean, the emotions are crazy. Get chills every time. Yeah. I mean, from just the fact that like yes, we've had some emotional points already. The fact that we haven't really hit like the main things kind of like necessarily yet, like I don't know how I'm gonna manage the tears are gonna be coming out for sure. I will drink my tears, no thanks. See, this is what I was talking about, Jim. That's what I was trying to say. Like, not that like it was a unique thought, but the amount of people that this turned like that became Mariners fans because of this, whether or not again your primary team or your second favorite team like that, like the impact is like very, very noticeable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you think about just how much like the 95 season meant to obviously the Mariners in the city of Seattle, to be able to contextualize that in a format like this. I mean, there are a lot of people who, I mean, we weren't alive. We weren't alive in 1995. We weren't around. My parents watched
Mitchell
it,
also wasn't
but
alive.
yeah,
There's so many of us that aren't, but still feel the weight of it, right?
yeah, and I know that 1995 has been completely like we've heard it a million times at this point, especially last year, it was the 30-year anniversary. Like, it's been pounded into our heads time and time again. But when you really think about what 95 was and how we're all Mariners fans now, it's because of this 95 season. And so, and especially these playoffs. So, I mean, even though the vote failed, obviously we're all still here. So
yes, spoilers. That was so like funny watching Mitchell like talking about like feeling nervous about this. Like, yeah, I mean the emotional things that they're tapping into, even though I know the events that take place,
right?
Like, it's still the fact that they're able to still elicit those kind of emotions, even though we know the outcome is insane. And the fact that like some people that have already seen this are always saying like, yep, I still feel that same exact way every time this happens. It's like how impactful the game is, and like like for the fandom.
True. Do it. Hit it.
Part 3.
Let's make it happen. Please provide spoiler warnings. Sorry, Mitchell. Didn't know if you guys knew we were still here.
Okay. I'm hitting play in 3, 2, 1. Get the popcorn ready. Absolutely.
Management has made it clear that if there's no stadium deal by the end of the month, they're selling, which virtually guarantees moving. Washington Governor Mike Lowry begins to arrange a last-ditch effort to fund a new park, but as it stands, it's kind of a long shot. For one, politicians are generally hesitant to counteract a public vote. For another, we're less than 1 year removed from the Republican Revolution of 1994. Washington state served as ground zero, as the spending-averse GOP saw more House victories here than in anywhere else in the country. The on-field performance of the Mariners seems to be the only variable left. If they squeak into the playoffs only to be immediately snuffed out, is that enough to move the needle? Probably not. This team, which had never seriously contended in their entire history until about a month ago, has to win something. 5 games, first to 3 takes it. And again, this could not have been written any better. To this point in history, the New York Yankees had been to the World Series 33 times and won 22 of them. They were everything the Mariners were not. The Yankees played in a storied stadium that lasted nearly a century. The Mariners played in a concrete dome built on the cheap that started falling apart in 20 years' time. The Yankees were a mainstay of American culture. The Mariners had to fight for the privilege of existing. The Yankees got married to Marilyn Monroe and hung out with the Rat Pack. Mariners made toilet jello and threw up because it was funny. In recent times, the Yankees had emerged like locusts, surfacing to contend every 10 or 15 years. In '94, the strike may have been the only thing keeping them from another World Series, as they had the best record in the American League. They decided that, once again, it was their time. The Yankees were an archenemy to many, but few, if any, shared the animosity held by Ken Griffey Jr. The 1983 incident wasn't a simple clubhouse misunderstanding. The Griffey family had been disrespected, and for Jr., a family man who famously preferred spending time with his wife and kids to living the celebrity lifestyle, it was not a forgettable offense. In Ken Sr.'s autobiography, Big Red, he wrote that Jr. carried this grudge against the Yankees throughout his entire career, adding that he played his best games against them. He was right. In fact, despite all the premier pitching the Yankees threw at Jr. over the years, he hit better against them than any other team. 7 years into his career, baseball's biggest superstar is finally in the playoffs. Here is his opportunity to save the future of his team and exact revenge on another.
Junior and the Mariners entered the first ever ALDS game fighting an uphill battle. For starters, after punching their playoff ticket with that win over the Angels, they didn't get into New York, their third time zone in 3 days, until after 4 in the morning. On top of that, they were without the services of their superstar ace at the beginning of the series, thanks to Johnson's heroics the day before to even get him here. But Buck Showalter's Yankees had the luxury of being able to send their top pitcher to the mound on full rest, mid-season trade acquisition and reigning AL Cy Young winner David Cone. Cone's been red hot, having allowed just 4 runs across his final 25 innings of the regular season, and he got an early lead with a 2-run Wade Boggs homer. But as John mentioned, having a star pitcher on the mound didn't matter when it came to Griffey. No matter how good any pitcher was, if he was wearing the pinstripes, Junior was going to dole out the punishment. And sure enough, to lead off the next inning, he cut the deficit in half with a single gorgeous swing of the bat, sending a Cone split finger to the upper deck. Later on, trailing by 2 with a man on, Griffey again took a Cone splitter deep to right that tied the score at 4.
He has done it again. Goodbye, home run.
But alas, the Yanks pulled away with a late inning onslaught against M's reliever Bobby Ayala and took Game 1 by a score of 9-6.
Bobby freaking Ayala. What a guy.
For Game 2, Piniella gave the ball to Andy Benes in an all-Andy pitching duel against 23-year-old Yankee rookie Andy Pettitte, making the first start of his MLB record 44 career postseason starts. And they took a third-inning lead when left fielder Vince Coleman, a man who was an all-time great when it came to swiping bases, but had come into this game with just 27 homers through his first 11 big league regular seasons, sent a 3-2 fastball soaring the opposite way that New York right fielder Paul O'Neill could only watch sail over the fence to give Seattle the early lead. They trailed for the first time when Ruben Sierra and Don Mattingly led off the bottom of the 6th inning with back-to-back dingers. And even though they retook the lead on a 7th inning Griffey sac fly, O'Neill hit a blast of his own to tie it back up, necessitating extra innings to decide this one. And a couple minutes after Wednesday became Thursday, that sure appeared to be the Mariners when Griffey, facing New York closer John Wetland, against whom Junior's 6 weeks removed from hitting a walk-off homer, launched this 12th inning fastball into the
series. He drills it deep to right field towards the gap. 385. My goodbye. Home run. He has done it again.
Griffey had put Seattle on the brink of tying the series at a game apiece, further validating the enormous praise lobbed his way by Mr. October himself, Reggie Jackson. But in the Yankees' last chance at the dish, Wade Boggs drew a walk to reach base before Jorge Posada pinch ran for him. It was Posada's maiden voyage on an MLB base path, and he was representing the tying run in extra innings of a playoff game. Piniella summoned starting pitcher Tim Belcher out of the pen, who promptly allowed a 2-out Ruben Sierra double that brought Posada home to stay alive. After failing to score in the next 3 innings against Mariano Rivera, Belcher capped what had now broken the 24-hour-old record for longest playoff game in MLB history by allowing a 15th inning walk-off homer to Yankee catcher Jim Leyritz.
It could be. Back in the wall. Goodbye. Home run. The Yankees win.
giving the Yankees a commanding 2-0 series lead and compelling the M's to win 3 in a row as the series shifted to the Kingdom.
The morning of Game 3, an update from Governor Lowry hits the papers, and it's not good. Negotiations still aren't going anywhere. Republicans are maintaining a hard line, no taxes for a new park. And if the Mariners get unceremoniously swept out of the playoffs, well, that line is probably all the easier to hold. Baseball isn't like other sports. One player can't carry his team to greatness. The greatest hitter can bat every 9 times, and that's it. It's why, in Junior's first few great seasons, the Mariners were mediocre at best. It's why, in his historically great 93 and 94 seasons, you could look at their win-loss record and never even know he was there. And it's why Game 3, on October 6th, 1995, could very well be the last game the Seattle Mariners ever play.
Coming off 2 games in the Bronx with a rabid Yankee fan base that was constantly throwing garbage on the field and hurling objects at Mariner players, Seattle was very much looking forward to returning to the Kingdom. And at least in Game 3, with their backs completely against the wall in their first ever home playoff game, they got to climb on the giant shoulders of Randy Johnson, who in '95 we know was seemingly indestructible, untouchable, and automatic all year. For the first 3 no-hit innings, it was more of the same. Until Bernie Williams' crushing homer in the 4th put the Yanks up, even with the M's deity on the mound. It looked even more grim with Johnson's New York counterpart, another recent AL Cy Young winner in Jack McDowell, in an absolute groove, having faced the minimum 12 batters through 4 innings. However, that mistake to Williams was Johnson's only real blip, with Seattle taking the lead back on a 2-run bomb in the 5th off the bat of Tino Martinez, and a monster 6th inning returned the baseball world to the normalcy of being able to ride a brilliant gem from the big unit when they needed it the very most to a huge win. For the second time that week, the entire season, and maybe the entire existence of the franchise, came down to Randy Johnson's left arm on 3 days rest. For the second time that week, even without his best stuff, Randy Johnson delivered. Season still alive. But to keep the plug from being pulled, Seattle would have to win another 2 games, starting mere mortals at pitcher. And Game 4 starter Chris Bosio wasted 0 time showing just how mortal he was. 3 batters into the game, 3 Yankees were aboard. They all eventually scored, putting the Mariners way behind the 8 ball just minutes in. Another O'Neill homer a couple innings later buried the Mariners into a dreadful 5-run hole. Hope was just about gone. And it may well have been completely gone if not for the presence of one Edgar Martinez. Their third baseman turned designated hitter, who was coming off a couple injury-plagued seasons, but in 1995 stayed healthy and had been MLB's top batter, even though he was widely underappreciated.
Outside of Seattle, Edgar never got the enormous amount of credit he deserved, largely because he spent most of his career as a designated hitter. Well, this is the guy we were ignoring. If you want to know how good a hitter is and you only want to look at one number, OPS, or on-base plus slugging, is the number for you. In '95, Edgar's OPS surpassed 1,100, a mark that even the best hitters rarely approach in a full season. Up here is a jumble of seasons owned by the likes of Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, and Mickey Mantle. In '94, 3 guys reached the mark, but because of the strike, they only had to maintain the number for 2/3 of a normal season. Edgar's up here playing damn near a full season. From the early '60s up until this season, his only neighbor is Barry Bonds. The arc of Edgar's career is as fascinating as its apex. It was the precise opposite of Griffey's. Ironically, when scouts came to watch Edgar in Puerto Rico, they liked his fielding, but they saw him as a weak hitter without much potential. At age 20, Jr. was already an all-star with 2 seasons under his belt. At the same age, Edgar was working days at a furniture store, then working nights at a factory. As a last-ditch effort, he dragged himself to a Mariners tryout after a grueling night shift, played on fumes, and somehow managed to show enough flash to earn an offer from the team. He didn't even play his first major league game until age 24, and didn't play his first full season until age 27, at which age Griffey had already played so much great baseball that he could have retired on the spot and still probably made the Hall of Fame. Edgar was 32 now, and his OPS of 1.109, across his entire career, Jr. never did that. It's impossible to overstate just how great this guy was.
And when the next opportunity to hit for Seattle rolled around, they got 2 men on before Edgar strolled to the plate. It was time for this superhero to put on his cape and bring the Kingdome to life with a towering 3-run shot.
Deep to left field, Edgar Martinez, deep! Put it up!
That cut the deficit to 2. They eventually took a 6-5 lead behind and forgive me if I'm starting to sound like a broken record, Ken Griffey Jr. home run.
Hit high and deep! Griffey's got it out of here!
In the roller coaster that is Mariner baseball, they allowed the Yanks to pull even heading into the bottom of the 8th, with Edgar due up 4th. The first 3 all reached base, which is a pretty good way to tee up the AL batting champ. A meatball was served right down the middle of the plate by poor John Wetland, and if you make a mistake like that to Martinez, he'll rip your heart out with the grandest of
Freddie
slams.
Williams goes back and it is! Get out the rye bread and the mustard this time, Grandma! It is a grand salami!
To not only become the first player to ever drive in 7 runs in a playoff game, but also bust the game wide open. Almost not wide open enough though, as Bernie Williams nearly hit a miraculous game-tying homer when the Yankees were down to their last out, only to settle harmlessly into Junior's glove. Outside of a compound ankle fracture suffered by their Mariner Moose mascot, it was a magical evening. Against all odds, the Mariners had tied the series at 2 games apiece to force a winner-take-all Game 5 the following evening. The eyes of the entire country descended upon the Kingdome for this one, the first day with but a single nationally televised game since Joe Carter's World Series winning walk-off about 23 and a half months earlier. Unlike Seattle, New York got to rely on their ace for the do-or-die affair, though even he knew no answers existed for Edgar. The first couple innings were scoreless, thanks in large part due to the bottom half of the second frame when Seattle had a runner in scoring position with none out, then 2 in scoring position with just 1 out, only for David Cone to escape the jam by striking out the side. But then in the third, just like Vince Coleman's remarkably unlikely homer in Game 2, 30-year-old Mariner second baseman Joey Cora opened the scoring by going deep for just the 8th time in more than 2,000 career at-bats. O'Neill answered the next inning to put the Yankees on top, with the M's trailing by 2 in the bottom of the 6th. A leadoff double by Edgar again gave Seattle a runner in scoring position with none out, and again Cone struck out the side to neutralize the threat. More deja vu for Junior's next time at the plate in the 8th, when his 3rd homer of the series off Cone was also his 5th overall, matching Reggie Jackson's record for the most in any postseason series and pulling the Mariners within one. As the inning drew on, a completely gassed Cone lost any semblance of control as his pitch count approached 150. He issued a couple walks to help load the bases before yet another freebie to pinch hitter Doug Strange capped Seattle's 2-out rally and tied the game heading into the ninth, where the party was just getting started. The Yankees were on the verge of dealing a death blow when they got 2 on with none out and the top of the order due up against Mariner reliever Norm Charlton. In other words, desperation time. And we all know who's risen to the occasion time and time again when it's desperation o'clock. Less than 48 hours removed from throwing nearly 120 pitches, with over 240 across the previous 6 days, for a very limited appearance, Johnson was somehow available out of the pen. His legend grew when he sat down the heart of the Yankee lineup in order, getting the M's out of that bleak situation unscathed. The bottom half of the ninth was the Mariners' turn to reach the doorstep of victory, knocking Mariano Rivera on the ropes with the series-winning run in scoring position and just 1 out. New York responded by calling on McDowell for his first career relief appearance, and he likewise rose to the challenge to keep the game tied as the Game 3 starters were now dueling in extras to decide the 5th game for all the marbles. And they stayed dueling, with Johnson pitching another inning and striking out the side in a Herculean effort that left every ounce of everything he had on the field. The 10th inning turned into the 11th inning, and what was initially supposed to be a break glass in case of emergency situation to get an out, maybe 2, had now turned into a 3rd inning on the mound. And finally, at this point, the effects of his monstrous workload started to cause some cracks, with this Randy Velarde go-ahead RBI single a brutal punch to the gut, sending the Mariners into the bottom of the 11th, 3 outs away from utter heartbreak and devastation. Joey Cora was set to lead off, and at that point, he'd attempted 36 career bunts with the bases empty. 15 of them resulted in a hit, including one the day before. Now make it 16 out of 37. Tying run aboard. Griffey continued his torrid stretch by singling him over to 3rd. Tying run 90 feet away, ALDS winning run aboard. Into the batter's box stepped Edgar Martinez.
A dozen years ago, when he was working the night shift at a General Electric factory in San Juan, Edgar never could have imagined himself in this moment. He doesn't even need a hit to tie the game. With the speedy Cora at 3rd, any outfield fly should do just fine. And even with 1 out, they still have Jr. on base. For Ken Griffey Jr. to score the run that ends the New York Yankees season, well, that's the type of moment he's been waiting on for 12 years. And the opportunity to call a moment of this magnitude is something Dave Niehaus has waited for since the very beginning, nearly 20 years ago. This moment belongs to these 3 men.
They would love a base hit into the gap, and they could win it with Junior's speed in the stretch. And the 0-1 pitch on the way to Edgar Martinez. Swung on and lined down the left field line for a base hit. Here comes Joy. Here is Junior to 3rd base. They're going to wave him in. The throw to the plate will be late. The Mariners are going to play for the American League Championship.
It's so beautifully, obnoxiously fake. The superstar slides into home to beat the bad guy. Fireworks are lit off indoors above a nylon field. The team just played for its life and won. There are two mobs here. One swarms around Edgar, who will spend his entire career in Seattle. This is the hit that will one day push him over the top and get him into the Baseball Hall of Fame, and it's popular to consider it as the hit that saved baseball in Seattle. As overdramatic as that might sound, it's probably accurate. In the aftermath, opposing politicians lamented that the public's excitement for the team was putting them over a barrel. A couple weeks later, funds for the stadium were delivered. Edgar's double into left field is likely the reason the Seattle Mariners are here today. Somewhere in the other pile of bodies is Junior, who did it with his legs this time, flying in all the way from first base. Almost no other power hitter of his era would have been able to leg that one out. When he did, he exacted revenge on a team that he'd resented since he was 13 years old, and he helped to save the future of his own team. Junior is barely visible within this tumbleweed of Mariners. On the ABC broadcast, he emerges for just a handful of frames. The images will always remember him for yelling like an idiot in pure disbelief that he's slain two dragons at once. This is a moment that belongs to another world, one where cycles close and stories end, where there are heroes and the heroes win. A moment like this has no business in our world.
Certainly the Mariners win the World Series that year, right?
Certainly. God, we still have, does that say 2 hours left?
Yeah. There's a 2.5 hours, really.
2 hours and 13 minutes.
Yeah, man.
Oh.
I mean, hearing Dave on that call, I mean, it's obviously the most famous call in Mariners history. But yeah, that call, I mean, that moment specifically in Mariners history created a lot of, like, that's how a lot of Mariners fans were created. Now, there are some people, obviously, who weren't around in 1995. For example, there have been other moments like that, like Cal's walk-off in 2022, of course, that sent the Mariners back to the playoffs. That's how Jake became a fan. Mm-hmm. Jake Race the Trident became a fan after that moment. But it's like moments like that that kind of, they're not, I don't want to necessarily say they're few and far between for the Mariners, especially as of late. But, you know, when you think about the eras of Mariners baseball, we wouldn't be here without 1995 season, of course, but also like how fortunate we are to be living in the era we are right now, where we've seen now the Mariners go further than any other team in history, even further than this team did. And that team, I guarantee everyone thought at that moment that they were the team of destiny right then. Truly.
I don't have words to describe the emotions. It's just special. The amount of like care that I think even as fans of the like people would like public perception would say like the quote unquote worst franchise in baseball history, right? Since we're the one of the few teams that has never gone to the World Series, right?
The only team.
Shh. Let's pretend for a moment.
Oh, okay. My
You know
bad.
what I mean? But yeah, it's a testament to, I think, what fandom can be, and like it is just, it's kind of like my brain chemistry is like being rewritten presently because of how, and don't get me wrong, like people's irritation and frustration with the team and the organization and the franchise is, I don't think, unwarranted. But if people have watched this and only have like a negative perception about the team, I don't know how that's possible, if that makes sense. And I don't know if it's like my specific emotions to the way I think about fandom, because everyone's different, of course. But I don't know how you could watch this from the perspective of a Mariners fan, or even just a baseball fan in general, and then not see the beauty in, I guess, wanting to believe, as opposed to always assuming the worst. And don't get me wrong, like I said, like all the negativity from people, it is not unwarranted. There's definitely reasons to be upset, but I think this is just kind of like cementing the way that and I've said it before about the way I watch the game, is I'm expecting them to win every time I turn on the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just kind of being cemented even more so, just with the way that the storytelling is being presented. Of course, we know the outcome. I know that they don't go on to continue to win.
Whoa.
Spoilers. But it's just, it is an eye-opening watch for sure, as a somehow surprisingly first-time viewer of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard, right? Because you think about how we're watching this right now, and obviously it's a condensed, like, into a 3 hour and 40-minute documentary. But you think, like, to be, let's say we were 20 in 1977 when the Mariners started. Like, to have that team not even be above 500 for 14 years. Like, and then to, be good for 95, into like 2001, and then all of a sudden it's gone again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you think back to how people probably felt like the baseball was back in Seattle, baseball was saved in Seattle, only for 2 years into the Mariners being in T-Mobile Park for them to be bad again. Like, it's hard not to look at 95 as like 95 to 01, or I guess maybe 94 to 01 as like a little time capsule, and then obviously 2021 to present as the two golden eras of Mariners baseball. And yeah, I mean, I will always argue that as of right now, we're kind of living in the golden era of baseball for the Mariners on the field, but off the field, what the 95 team did, what the 01 team did, like 95 team is the reason we have baseball in Seattle still. It's the reason that this team still exists in the first place. It's the reason we can have a second golden era of baseball.
Yeah.
And, how many people became fans from that moment? How many people loved Griffey? Like, yes, on the field in terms of success and whatnot, and even off the field too, but in terms of success and whatnot, this era of Mariners baseball, in my opinion, is better. But all things considered, I mean, that time period, it just meant so much more to people. Now it's kind of like a foregone conclusion, right? Oh, the Mariners are going to be here. Like, we know the Mariners are going to be here in 2026.
Yeah.
And we know they're going to hopefully be here in 2027 if as long as the strike doesn't do some weird stuff.
Sure.
But then they didn't know, and it was everything was changing so fast for a team that had never been there before. So
we're going to finish up the rest of it tomorrow. It'll be a little bit longer of a watch tomorrow, 2 hours, 2 hour plus. But I mean, I don't know how I've gone so long without having seen this.
I don't know how you have either. I mean, this is only my second time watching it, but
Sure.
I mean, the first time I watched it, I was definitely a wreck. And you know what's because this goes through 2014?
I don't know when it stops.
Is that when it stops? Is it 2014? Let me check, because I think that it is 2014. And if that's the case, now I don't know what Secret Base is up to these days. But
I think there can be a next part for the missing 12 years.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, if you think about what has happened.
I'm seeing 2019.
2019?
See, that's what I thought. That's what I thought too, is that it went all the way up basically to 2020.
It stops at 2019. Okay, that's what everyone's saying. Okay, so yeah, it goes up to 2020. And I mean, realistically, after what we're watching right now, and then we'll get to 2001, and then it's going to be another, until 2019. It's not great. It's not great. And then you get Robbie Cano, obviously one of the biggest signings in Mariners history, just in terms of what it meant for a free agent player of his caliber to actually be willing to come here. This got released in 2020 during lockdown, was it? Okay.
I've seen a lot of people say that like they watched it during COVID.
Yeah, I think that's probably when I watched it too.
Yeah.
And it's like, Yeah, like if they could make, another segment
Yeah.
about 21 to like through 25, that'd be so sick. Like just another part would
I mean,
be so freaking cool.
there's 6 episodes. Let's hope
Mhm.
it doesn't get the sequel treatment like Star Wars did. You know what I mean? They Disney-fied the next secret base episode of the Mariners, and then somehow John Stanton returned in
Somehow
episode
Dan
9.
Wilson returned
Yeah,
as the manager.
that's seemingly turned out to be a good thing right now. Whereas
Yeah,
the
yeah.
somehow Palpatine returned was not a. What's the they fly now moment for current Mariners?
They fly now.
Is it like it's like DHs in the NL?
Yeah.
Pitchers, they don't. Oh no, it's Shohei coming in. They hit now. That's the they fly now moment. Oh
I'm in.
god, be cinema seeing how they discuss Kyle Lewis in 2020.
God.
Yeah, I mean,
The
there's a lot of like interesting like storylines that they could tell, and I mean, as captivating as this is, I don't know how it could be more, just because history in itself is, I think, more enriched the more time passes for it.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
again, like if you're telling modern stories, it's easy to have the information in front of you, and you, like a lot more people are probably informed of the story. But the fact that these guys were such good are such good storytellers, I have no doubt that they would make a ABS system as they fly now. They're balls now, so
They're balls now.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
it's-
just there's a good way that they could tell the story for sure.
It's crazy to me that these guys are not even Mariners fans. Like I saw people talking about that.
Yeah.
They're not Mariners fans. They are just dudes on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like they have so many different videos, but this is by far their most viewed video at 6.9
Nice.
million views. Their second most viewed at 4.8 million. Like the history of the Mariners is by far the greatest video they've produced just in terms of views, which is insane to me.
Sport historians facts. Eric, you asked what time tomorrow. 6 p.m. again tomorrow, PST. So be there or be square. We'll go live around like 5:50ish, like we did. Let people funnel in for 10ish minutes, and then we'll kick it back up with part 4, and we get to witness, I think the peak-ish of the golden era for what a lot of people deem as Mariners fans, and then another set of lean years, as the kids call it, where
Yeah.
you get to, and I think that'll be interesting too, like kind of revisiting that, and like not that I don't know if this is gonna be like corny to say, but like how inspiring this kind of like like the storytelling aspect of this is, as like individuals that have made kind of like narrative based content before, or at least attempted to in certain capacities. Like how captivating this is like it is an inspirational kind of moment as well. Like not even just looking at it from like a viewer, but also like I couldn't imagine being the brain trust behind this, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like this is like beyond scope kind of a situation.
This is something that we would have to, like, if we were to make something like this, and thankfully, like the history, at least, like in this scenario, it's not changing when they're making it, right? Like if you were to make one now, it's like the history is kind of still being told,
Yeah.
and it's still changing, which I find is interesting. But yeah, it's like, I mean, I like some of the stuff with Griffey, right? Like I talked about in a video I made about Ken Griffey Jr. and whatnot. Obviously the, his depression and whatnot. And I talked about that in the video. And it's like, that was one of my most favorite videos I've ever made. And stuff like that, I mean, it does well, just like the narrative based telling of the stories, because that's what people want to see. People want to humanize these guys. And I think that's what these guys have done so well as well, talking about, how Edgar was working at the factory or whatever it was he was doing, like it humanizes them. You see the stats, you see the numbers, but once you start to actually get to know these guys and what it is they do, I think it makes it that much more special.
I'm sure I'll be surprised if the bartender doesn't have a moment like similar in that way of like dude just picked, he was just a bartender kind of a situation. Sour Vanilla, I'm being like, on my mother's life, I've never seen this. Right? Like, that is the most severe thing, most serious way I could convince you. On my mother's life, I've never seen this. And again, I've said it, I think 3 times since we stopped watching part 3. I don't know how I haven't up until this point.
Yeah.
Like, if I could go back and watch this 5 years earlier, I think I would be a better individual for it, just by
a bigger Mariners fan,
literally just consuming a piece of media, essentially. And it's not like, I don't know. Ian said something during the middle of that, like, I'm immersed, and like I was locked in completely to what was happening on in the video. Like, not a single moment of whatever happened in the video, audio wise, escaped my brain. Like, I was so locked in.
Yeah, I mean, like, just kind of like landing the plane for where my head's at with this. It really makes you appreciate the history of this team. All the guys that have stuck around. Again, Rick, of course, Dave Niehaus and the time we got with him. And it makes you also appreciate just where the team is at right now, because we have been this offseason has been tough, right? Like, we've been waiting for moves to be made. We've been hearing about moves that could be made, and nothing's happened. And it's like, we're coming off the best season of this team's history. It makes you just appreciate what we got to experience last year even more. Like, that is like last year, if they were to make a follow-up to this documentary, last year would be, like, at least at this point, the highlight. Like, it would be the climax of that video.
Well,
and so
depends on how much is included. I feel like breaking the drought, if that's its own thing, where you're looking at, say, like 2020 to 2023, and then like 24 and 25 is like, that's part 7, 24 and 25 would be part, or 24, 25, 26 would be, say, part 8 kind of a situation. It just depends on how much content they'd be covering. But if like Cal, like 2022 and 2025 are in the same video, I would argue the moment specifically for Cal is probably the highlight. But then there's some sort of juxtaposition about 25 being like reaching a new height. You know what I mean? From a storytelling, from a storytelling standpoint.
One day they'll cross that line and be World Series
champions,
hopefully winners.
Someday, man. Win it for Rick.
Win it for Rick. And you can buy one of our Win It for Rick shirts in the comment, or with the pinned comment. Half the proceeds are going to Rick's fundraiser, Toys for Kids. And I'm definitely going to try to get a picture with Rick while wearing that while I'm down in spring training. And I want him to sign it. I think it'd be cool sick if I got that signed. Like, if he signed the trophy. Oh my God. That'd be cool.
You'll have to get a silver Sharpie if he signs it underneath it or something. So
yeah, true.
Well, ready to skedaddle and then be back again tomorrow?
Let's do it all again tomorrow, chat. I'm ready for it.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go process. I'm gonna go sit with my feelings for a while. Appreciate everyone who sat and watched with us. Great content, right? We just watched a video. Hell yeah.
I know. I am bummed that we couldn't add more commentary throughout.
Yeah, but I think the beauty of it is that we all kind of experience it all together. And then we reconvene at the end of the episode and then we can talk about it.
Yeah. So. Yeah, let us know if for tomorrow if there's something you want us to do differently, just so we can adjust if need be, because obviously we've never done something like this. So
sure. Yeah.
But yeah, let us know.
Substitute teachers are the best. Absolutely. That's what we're here for, to bring
We're
those
just watching
vibes.
the movie.
Yeah, we're just watching it with you guys. No notes need to be taken. There won't be a test on this. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Although someone did it. Yeah. Christine said we need to do a test, a Kahoot on it, which Jake has made one. I wonder if that's still active. We could just get like access to it and run it again.
True.
I don't know I don't know how that works.
It's a good question. We should ask him.
Win it for Rick. Absolutely.
Win it for Rick, boys. That's right.
Okay. Appreciate you guys watching. Oh my God. At the buzzer. Gert.
Nelson.
Thanks,
with
Nelson.
the 21 months. Shout out, Nelson.
Okay. On that note, we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Bye.
Later.